welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. How's it going, everybody? Well, thank you for tuning in today. You know how I like to get my podcast started, always with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity to pray for the addict who still suffers. A moment of silence, if you will. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, let's get started. Well, today I'd like to talk a little bit about how my traumatic experiences as a kid, well, not all of them, but just how, I guess, one of the major traumatic experiences of my childhood, how that has played a role in how it affected my life, and how I believe that it affected my life, and how I believe that it brought me to the world of addiction. And I guess what first things first is when I was a kid, I grew up in a family with mom, dad, brothers, sisters, that sort of thing. A normal family. And I also learned a lot of good traits as far as family traditions, and you work hard and you succeed and that sort of thing. My dad was a hard worker. I mean, he was a roofer, and he worked hard, and he provided for the family. But as a child, what I saw and was not necessarily introduced, but because what happened in my family, and what people did in my family, to me that was normal. So at a very, very young age, I knew that my dad drank. I knew that my uncles drank. I knew that my grandfather drank. And as I got a little bit older, then I knew that they did drugs and they sold drugs. And as being introduced to something like that as a young kid, I mean, it seems normal to you because you see it every single day of your life, right? So that in itself, I know now was traumatic, but the most traumatic thing for me, I guess, was being abused as a kid. And I wasn't abused by my mom or my dad. It wasn't in my immediate family like that, but it was someone in my family. And and it happened at a very, very, very young age. And I was like in kindergarten or the first grade when it happened, and it continued to happen until I was well into junior high. And for me, that part of my life was something that really scarred me, in a sense, and something that I dealt with every single day. And growing up like that, it kept me isolated. I was isolated. I was a very shy kid, and that followed me as I got older. And then I would always be shy to interact with kids or talk to people, or talk to girls. It wasn't my thing. You know what I mean? I wasn't that guy who could just go up and talk to him. I mean, it took me. I was one of them. Drink a couple of beers and then you can go talk guy to guy. You know what I mean? So it was tough. But I can remember the feelings I had as a kid were scary feelings. I was fearful of what would happen if I said something. I was fearful of what would happen if I didn't go along with what they're asking me to do. Because it was scary, you know what I mean? And it had this really, really, really deep impact in my psyche, in my mind, that I had to do what people told me to do, and I didn't have no say so in it, and you know, the feeling for me was like it was scary, and it was it was like I had no protection in a sense. You know what I mean? So the way I dealt with that was to be isolated. If I isolate myself and don't put nobody around me, then nothing can happen to me. And you know, when I was a kid, my dad would always ask me to go get him a beer. You know, no matter where or when, I was that kid who got chosen to go get the beer for the people who were drinking. And so with when I did that, every now and then I would take a sip. You know what I mean? I can remember my uncle and my grandparents. You know, somebody would always say, "Hey, you want to drink?" And I would take a little sip. And I can remember when I would go get the beers and take it to people, I would drink some of it. You know what I mean? Every time. You know, they open the beer and I would drink it. I would drink a little bit of it. So drinking a little bit of beers all night long, you know, you could feel the effect. And I can remember it making me feel like it was relief in a sense. Like I wouldn't think about the ugly feelings and the scary feelings. It made me feel like I could do whatever, you know, like I was good. And you know how they say you feel like you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Well, as a kid, I was, you know, I felt like that. I just didn't know that it was to that extent. And not until I got older, I could feel like, you know, I could do whatever, you know, when I was drinking. And it was, you know, throughout my life, that feeling, I kept wanting. So I kept doing that. And, you know, as I got older, when I was like in junior high, I got introduced to, you know, my dad used to have these marijuana plants out in the backyard, huge, like 6-7 foot tall marijuana plants with a stem about, you know, that year round. And I remember, you know, I knew what it was, and you know, my dad took care of them things. He had a lot of them back there in the garden. I mean, there was like at least 20 plants, you know what I mean? And nobody would say nothing. I was back in the 70s or whatever. And I can remember picking the leaves off of the bottom of that plant. And, you know, I remember when I smoked my first joint, I was like in the, oh gosh, I was in the 2nd grade when I smoked my first joint. And I remember, you know, I think about it and I'm like, dude, I was in the 2nd grade when I first did that. And, you know, I remember getting the feeling that it made me feel along with the drinking. It was just like, whoa. I was like, this elevated the feeling of feeling secure, feeling like there was no worry in the world, feeling like, you know, you were in a sense like, you know, Mighty Mouse or Superman, you know what I mean? You were that, you just felt like you could do anything and nothing could penetrate the force field that was there. And so I would do that, so I wouldn't think about the ugliness, and I wouldn't think about the sadness and the anger and all mixed up in one, because I had a lot of issues going through my mind that I didn't know at the time, but as I look back and reflect on how I felt and the things that I would think and stuff, I knew that, you know, I was hurting. I was a hurt kid, you know what I mean? And it evolved from being a hurt kid to being a hurt, addicted kid. And, you know, I spent years and years and years masking that feeling like that. And as I got older, I got introduced to cocaine. And man, when I got introduced to cocaine, it was like 10 times the feeling. You know what I mean? It was 10 times the feeling. And then I was like invincible. You know what I mean? I felt like I could do anything. I could tackle the world. I could talk to chicks. I could do whatever I wanted to. And mixed that with my working out and staying fit and all that kind of stuff. Man, shoot, I felt like I was pimping. You know what I mean? But all along, I had no idea that I had a disease and that I was slowly making myself worse. And you know, it wasn't until years later when I was in the military and I got in trouble because of the alcohol, and got sent to a correctional facility, and you know, things like that. Every time something bad happened in my life, it was because of I was doing something, you know, through the alcohol or drugs. And you know, when I lost my family, after I went to my second rehab, and I lost my family, and my wife decided she didn't want to be married anymore, you know, that was, you know, I was doing a lot of cocaine then. So I understand that my abuse and being an addict, you know, I lost my family because of it. And then, you know, I'm sure that my daughters had, you know, that affected them in a way. And, you know, all along I still didn't, you know, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't really consider it a disease. I can remember the people at the rehab telling me, okay, you guys, you're sick. This is a disease, give me the whole rundown, and I'm just like, dude, whatever. Because I didn't go to that rehab to better myself or because I thought I had a problem. I just went to save my marriage. So I was there for the wrong reasons altogether. But see, that's the addictive mindset that you have, is that you talk yourself into anything. So I could talk myself into saying, yes, I'm going to go, but just to save my family. But I was denying the fact that I had a problem. And yeah, so it's like I was that was my second treatment center, and in my life at that point. And then on my last treatment center is when I finally, things started clicking and opening up to things that I had learned a long time ago from my very first rehab. When I got introduced to that very first time I got introduced to a 12-step program, which was back when I was like 18, when I went to that correctional facility, you know, while I was in the military, you know, then I got introduced to it, but I didn't, you know, I was just going because, you know, I had to. And I really, you know, I listening to stories and listening to everything that they told you, I don't really give a shit. And, you know, I didn't, and plus I didn't think I had a problem anyway. And until my third treatment center that I did, which was the last one, and I stayed there for 60 days, that my mind started really clearing up and understanding that, okay, dude, you fucked up again, and something's wrong here. You know, because you had a lot of stuff going on in your life. You were doing pretty good. You were successful with money. You had a business. You had a big bank account. You were doing everything right. And all of a sudden now you're sitting in jail. You're homeless. You lost everything, including your family and all your possessions. You know, you got nothing. I mean, I got to this treatment center with just the clothes that I had on me and not a cent in my pocket, and I was just defeated in a sense. You know what I mean? And I had came from the street because I was living on the street, and I got thrown in jail, then from jail to the rehab. So, um, you know, the progression of things that happened in my life had always, and the progression of things that happened in my life that were bad have always stemmed from using drugs or alcohol. And this last time when I got thrown in jail and then went to the treatment center was because of methamphetamines, and I got caught and got thrown in jail, and then, you know, by the grace of God, I didn't get sent to prison like most of the people that had the same charge I had were going to prison. And I remember distinctly 2 people in front of me before going to the judge. They had the same charge I did, and they got sent to 2 years for TDC. And then when they got to me, for some miraculous reason, they didn't give it to me. They reduced my sentence. They reduced it to a misdemeanor, and I had a $7,800 bond that got reduced to $100. And why that happened to me and not those 2 guys, I have no idea. I mean, the best thing that I can describe it as is a divine intervention. Somebody's looking out for me. And when that happened, and you know, they gave me a week or 2 later, I get called up to a social worker while I'm in the county jail, and they asked me if I wanted to go to this treatment center, and naturally I said yes, but I said yes because I was, not because I, you know, wanted help, but because I didn't want to be in jail. And when they gave me that paper saying that, okay, you're going to be going to the treatment center, but you have 24 hours from when you get out to go to, you know, to go there. And on the day of my release, I got sent directly to the treatment center. They didn't release me to the outside. They put me in a van and drove me straight to the treatment center. And all the meanwhile, I'm pissed off because I didn't get my 24 hours. You know, because I already knew what I was going to do in those 24 hours. I was going to go buy some shit. I was going to go have fun and, you know, do my thing, and then go and then maybe go to the treatment center. You know, I wouldn't even know if I'd have went. You know, probably honestly, I probably wouldn't have. But nonetheless, I didn't have a choice. You know, I got sent directly to the treatment center from jail, and I had to stay there for 60 days. And thinking back on that, I'm thinking like, wow, you know what? It gave me such clarity in my mind, and to reanalyze my life of where I was at that point in time and where I was, you know, the past few years. And, you know, I was stuck. I was stuck in addiction. I was stuck out in the street. I was living in bandos. I was living in tents. I was living in motels, and I mean, just day after day, doing licks just to maintain your you know, your life in a sense, because your life was, you know, wanting more drugs. Every day I had to have it, and every day I found myself doing something that I shouldn't have been doing to attain that, whether it was selling the drugs or doing a lick to get more drugs. And you know, ultimately, you know, I got caught, and just like, you know, I got caught, and then I went to the treatment center. Then from the treatment center, I went to the sobriety home, and you know, that's where I'm currently at. You know, and the thing is that, you know, the 12-step programs in the NA and the AA book, it says that ultimately the use of whatever it is you're addicted to always going to land you in the same spot. It's going to be either jail, institutions, or death. And I've been to the jails, I've been to the institutions, and the only thing that I've been, you know, miraculously avoiding is the death. And it's not because, you know, I didn't try or anything like that. You know, I didn't, you know, purposely try, but I know that at any time that you do drugs, you could potentially die. Because you don't know what's in the drugs. Especially now with the fentanyl thing. I mean, I've seen people right in front of me overdose, and I'm sitting there trying to revive somebody off of an overdose. And it's happened multiple times, and I've been And I've known people that have OD'd and not come back. You know, they ultimately passed away. And you know, did that stop me from not using? No, I just kept going. Why? Because that's where the insanity comes in. You know that you're doing wrong. You know that it's not good for you. You know that you're hurting yourself, but you continue to do it. That's insanity. And it is, you know, that stems all the way to the mindset that was stamped into me when I was a very young kid of, if you do this, you mask the feelings, you don't have to feel like that. You can feel like you're out of there. So as an adult, being homeless and losing my business, losing my house, you know, I feel like I had disappointed and let my kids down because they lived with me. Now I had to displace my kids and live somewhere else. And, you know, as a dad, that hurts your pride. It hurts, you know, it tears you down. And then it's like you're a failure. And, you know, those are tough feelings to deal with. Very, very tough feelings to deal with. So naturally, you know, when I felt uncomfortable like that, you know, where I felt defeated or I felt sad or angry or depressed, my natural freaking reaction is to go to the default setting of my feelings. And for me, that was go back to where you're comfortable, and that's to use it, because you know that when you use it, all went away. But unfortunately, it didn't go away. It was just a temporary relief, right? So you found yourself doing it over and over and over again. And what I do now, because of my last treatment center and because for some reason or another, I don't know why, but the clarity got there. The smoke cleared for me in a sense. And now I was able to think a whole lot more different than I was before. And it's like you go through all these things and you know the do's and don'ts. You know what I mean? It's like you know what to do, not to put yourself back in that situation. And for me is setting those healthy boundaries. When I say healthy boundaries, that means mentally getting your mindset thinking to think different and to put yourself in different situations that are not going to be that are not going to have a negative result. So I started doing things again, you know, that were positive, that I knew that were going to give me positive results. So it allowed me for my mind to open back up and to start thinking healthy, and to physically start getting myself into that healthy realm. And so, you know, one of my things was always, I've always been an exercise freak and a eating healthy kind of dude, right? So I started doing that. And I got back into my exercising and eating right and you know, into that stuff. So then I started getting myself involved in my faith-based community and in my recovery community, and things are looking better. You know what I mean? When you start doing positive things and you involve yourself in positive things, and you're not afraid to do the work, because you have to do work to stay in the sobriety and positive realm. You know, it's not for lazy people, and it just you have to know that there's things that you have to do to stay there, to get there. You know, because it's not something that's just going to get thrown on your lap. You know what I mean? It's something that you got to work for. You got to do the freaking work and get in there and do, and in a sense, you know, get down in the trenches and do good stuff so that good things happen to you. And yeah, you know, one of the things that I do now is I wake up in the morning, I do a morning affirmation, and that's just something that you think of positive things that you want to do in your day, or goals that you're setting, and you just say them out loud. It's like, you know, I call it a prayer meditation in a sense, because I say the things that I want to do, and I pray to my higher power to help me in doing that. And that's how I start my day off. And then I'll do that. Then I'll put in a little exercise routine that I'll do. Sometimes I do it on the daily. Sometimes I do it every other day. But the exercise I continually to do. So I do the morning affirmation, then I do the exercise, and then I go out and I do a video. So, my thing is that I like to do my podcasts in different locations of the city, and so that's what I do, because it gives me time to go out and interact with the community, and then I find a spot, then I find, I think about a subject or something that I want to talk about, and then I'll do it, you know what I mean? So, it's fun for me, and it keeps me engaged in my recovery community, and it keeps me engaged in my faith-based community, number two. So what is, and I think that that's key to me staying in my sober environment, and is, because I don't think I honestly believe that it has to be like that. You have to have a recovery community, a faith-based community, and you've got to engage those two things in order to stay in that positive realm. And because if you don't, and you try to do it just on your own, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. And I know this because I've done that. You know what I mean? My life has become unmanageable. I can no longer manage it. You know what I mean? I could manage my drugs, because that was my life. But to manage it in a sense, to not, to get out of that darkness, I just couldn't do it. And so now, when I involve people to help me, I like to use analogies of business and stuff, and because I had my own business before. I got a degree in project management, and if you want to have a successful business, then you have to bring successful people with good knowledge of whatever it is that you're going to do business in to help you. You can't have mediocrity and think that you're going to get this wonderful freaking business. No, it didn't work like that. If you do mediocrity stuff, then guess what? Mediocrity is going to happen. That's where you're going to stay. So if you think and shoot for the stars, then guess what? More than likely, that's where you're going to wind up. Successful. And it's the same thing with your sobriety. If you do things in your sobriety in a mediocrity way, in other words, if you think that you can do it by, saying that, well, I'm not going to attend a meeting every day, I'll just do it on the weekends. And I'm not going to stop drinking, but I'm going to stop all the drugs. Then you got one foot in and one foot out, and that never works. You know what I mean? You can't do a damn thing when you're straddling the fence. You know what I'm saying? You can't take off one way or the other. Why? Because you're going to trip as soon as you take off. So just know that you have to be open-minded. You have to be truthful with yourself, and you have to want to do the change. And I know that it could be a scary thing, because I was afraid to change, to get away from what I was already comfortable in, because I didn't want to, number one, be by myself, and I didn't want to have to start all over, so I was like, well, I'm already comfortable here, I might as well stay here. But by the grace of God, I got sent a different direction, and I'm glad I did now. You know what I mean? Because now I'm in a different mindset, I'm doing different things, and I got plans for my future now. You know what I mean? I got some other events and ideas that I'm trying to launch off, and that are in positive realm, and they're positive things that I'm looking. My vision is to do things to help myself stay in recovery and to help others. So, but anyway, that's all I got for today. But if I like to kind of end my meetings with giving out a few spots that I attend meetings at, and maybe I like to give out my email so that if you want to shoot me a message or whatever, and if you need help, or if you know somebody who needs help, or you need a little guidance or whatever, and if I can help in any way, shape, or form, I will. And if I can, I will definitely direct you with some numbers and some people who have helped me along the way. And I'm sure that they can help you too. So a couple of meetings that I like to attend to is the Esperanza group in downtown west side of San Antonio. I got the Winners Club in the north central side of town, or the northwest side of town, the Winners Club. In the southeast side of town, you got the Goliath group, and in the north central side of town, you got Club 12. So I know people in all these locations. They got good people out there. They won't turn you away. They'll show you some love, that's for sure. And if, hey, you know what? If nobody hasn't told you today that they love you, that they care for you, you know what? I care and I love you, and I care what happens to you. So I hope to see you one day out here in the positive realm of sobriety. And I guess that's it for now. So thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe button. I could use all the help I can get. That's why I do this stuff, to try to do my due diligence and give it away with that. What I got, in the sense that what has helped me, I'd like to give that away to the audience. And if you would, please hit the like button, subscribe button, and help my podcast grow. And it doesn't cost you a thing, but just click a button. And I'd really appreciate that. And okay, well, God bless. And I guess until next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.